when I was leaving the shores of Ghana about 20 and over years ago, I never dreamt that I would stand in public arena to preach. It never occurred to me. I was a serious Christian, all right. I had been in the church, the charismatic church, for a few years, but I never dreamt of preaching. I never dreamt of starting a church. I didn't know that one day I will be preaching in public arena and not in the land of my own. I traveled, and when I was traveling, I was a serious Christian, all right, in a certain church, charismatic church. At a point, I felt preaching in public, but I never did. So I traveled and came to England. And when I came to England, I joined a church. The first church, I was there for maybe a year, and then I joined another church, and that church was quite vibrant. And when I joined with my wife and myself, because when I was leaving Ghana, I had not married. I had a friend, a fiancée, but we had not married. She traveled, and later on, we came together and we joined the church. And when I joined that church, the church was very vibrant. So I became extremely serious and busy with the church activities. I went through their school, the basic foundation of the Bible and everything. But then, as I said, in Ghana, I attended Bible school for 2 years and left and traveled. So basically, when I was traveling, I was quite serious with the things of God. And when I joined this new church in England, I became more serious. And then, to be honest, I went to the level where I was paired with another guy. But then he had started a church in one of the towns, or I should say, no, it wasn't a city, a town. But that was a very good town. So they paired me with him, and we were in church. We were running the church, all right. And at a point, we had a little rift, and I said to myself, no, I had to leave and go outside that church. Because one thing that the anointing doesn't like is having a rift or having a problem with church members or church people. Your anointing can collapse. Your anointing can decrease. Because all the time, you will not feel that refreshing power and spirit. So then I had to just leave, and I decided to go and set up a new church. And I spoke to my wife, and I said we were going out and I was going to begin a church. And so we started it. I went to look for a place, and we started the church. Now, I never thought, but lest I forget, when we were leaving that church, we used to go out to evangelize. And I preached in public. I mean, I started preaching in public, hard preaching. Some of you, if you remember some of my videos in town, certain places that I was preaching. I remember one day I was even preaching, and someone was so annoying, so angry with me while I was preaching. But I mean, that was the life, that was my life. And so I was preaching in public arena, and almost all the time my wife was there, my children were there, and I would be preaching. And so when we left that church, we started our church, and we continue in that preaching. And I became so hard in preaching. And I was preaching. Occasionally, I would go to places without my wife and my children. And I would stand in the public arena preaching alone. And I did it for years. Now, I am trying to say something across the line to people. People that marry, and sometimes we try to reject our spouses because of change in, it could be a location, a change in occupation, change in profession, changes can come. I'm preaching this message to the fact that I have heard that a politician in Ghana who was arrested for few days and has been granted bail, and his wife is proposing that the man is disagreeing with her proposal, so she is putting forward to divorce the man. To divorce the man because of his way of life, his way of doing things and activities. And this is a learned person, woman, who is coming out with this. But you see, in the first place, this woman, you knew your husband was a radical politician. I mean, everyone knows that this guy, if I should mention his name, Abronye, is a radical politician. He speaks his mind openly and fearlessly. He is not afraid of anybody, including the president. He is so bold to speak his mind. He is a radical politician. And when this woman, you were coming to marry this man, you knew that this guy was or is a radical politician. And you came forward to marry him. Why are you proposing to divorce this man? Because he has been in prison or he has been arrested for his utterances. But what I'm trying to speak to this woman, wherever she may be, is that, look, if through this activity, this man had become the president of the country, would you say that you would divorce him? Would you say that? You see, my wife didn't know when we met from 1994, 1995, thereabout, that I met my wife. She never knew because I was not born again. As at 1994, 1995, I was not born again. I used to go to Presby Church, all right. But truly, truly, I was not a strong believer. I was in church, but I was doing my own thing. My wife never knew I would be a preacher. But at a point, I became a radical preacher. There were occasions, I remember one day we went to a certain marketplace in our place of abode. And in that market, the market controller came to me, and it was like we were going to fight. This fat man, we were going to fight. My wife was really, I saw that my wife was even afraid. She was afraid of, the way my attitude came up. She was afraid for me. But she didn't propose the end of our marriage. Ladies and gentlemen, I am addressing every one of us. In this life, we can never get total smoothness of life. It doesn't matter where you are coming from. A day may come, your husband may be lying in bed, cannot talk, cannot do anything. It could also happen to your wife. Are you going to say that you will leave your wife or you will leave your husband? Anything at all can change in this life. So we must prepare our mind. If you are going to marry today, you must prepare your mind that anything at all can happen to you. Anything at all can happen to you. When I had that problem in that church, I boldly said I was going to begin a new church. That was my life. That was my life. Not even my mother nor my father would tell me, "Oh, Isaac, don't go and start a new church. There are so many churches." They couldn't have said that to me. And so I left. Human beings have different traits, characters, and behaviors. There are some times that some politicians, some activists, some preachers may say things that will call for other people to attack. The old politicians, some of them were arrested. They said things against the government, the sitting government, the incumbent government. And some of them were arrested. Even some people were executed. And it has not ceased. Other people are following suit. Other people are also saying things to ginger arrest, to ginger provocations. But that should not separate us from our families. Some of the things that other people do, like this activist who had been killed. He was saying certain things that were very odd. I listened to some of his messages, some of his preachings, and they were very, 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 very odd. Very, very, very odd. But that is not to say someone should pick a gun and destroy his life. If you don't believe, so be it. You can also say whatever. But what I'm saying to people is that life can change at any time. Anything at all can happen as we go through this life. So the wife of Abronye, as I've heard, I don't know whether it is true or untrue. The woman knew that the husband was a radical politician and she married him. So why are you saying he is disgracing you? It is never a disgrace. An intellectual person, an intelligent person like Abronye, he knows what he is doing. So it is not a disgrace. He is speaking his mind, and everyone has a right to speak his or her mind. My advice to all of us is that the time shall come, there will be a change. And please, when that change comes, don't disown your spouse. Don't reject your family. Don't reject your children. Don't reject your people. Look, my own children, all girls, I was there when they came to this life. In fact, I gave seed to their mother. Conception took place and they came. I was there. In fact, right from the maternity ward and the labor ward, I was there myself. I took them when they came from the womb. Today, they have gotten to a level they argue strongly with me. Yes. They argue strongly. Sometimes we talk to the level that, but they are still my children. I can't say I'll reject them. Today they have gotten to a level. There are things sometimes I say, they argue, they feel that it is too much for them. But they are still calling me daddy. They have started their schooling, and I dropped them, I took them to their university, and they were so happy. But we argue sometimes. I can't reject them, and they can't reject me. So if your husband is a radical politician, you can't say you are going to leave him because he's disgracing you. It is never a disgrace. It is never a disgrace. What this guy has done is never a disgrace. We thank God for how He has created each and every one of us. And so far as we have politicians, we have activists, we have preachers, life will go on the way it has to go on. If it doesn't favor you, that's it. You can't change anybody. You didn't create anybody. May the Lord continue to be with us. God bless. Shalom.